Several doors on the kitchen cabinets were missing, and the ones that were still there were barely hanging on by their last hinges. The walls were dingy and yellowed from years of exposure to cigarette smoke. The dishes were piled high in the sink, spilling out in all directions on our orange peeling countertops. This dilapidated and neglected state of our home was just an outward reflection of the brokenness that was in our family. My parents were struggling in their marriage. I was 18, had recently graduated from high school, and was registered at my local college. All I had to do was step into the routines and rhythms of a college student, but I did not feel ready. The instability at home caused anxiety to settle into my heart, kind of like the static of a radio stuck between two stations, and it stole my motivation. My mom, once supportive and highly involved, was fragmented and distracted. I felt like I was left to bumble through my first life transition kind of on my own. As I sat with my mom in that messy little kitchen, I'd finally mustered up the courage to tell her that I was going to take a year off. I could tell that she was disappointed. She couldn't disguise the sadness and worry on her face. My mom told me that if I didn't go then, I would never go back. How could she not understand? I promised her that I would only take a year, and then I promptly canceled my college registration. Shortly after that year was over, I jumped headlong into adulthood. I got married at the age of 19 and started a family at 21. And once our children came along, I wholeheartedly embraced the role of wife and mother and full-time homemaker. I loved it. Don't get me wrong, marriage and motherhood was no walk in the park. We faced many difficulties and made sacrifices, but every one of them was worth it. I had a purpose that was beyond myself, and my focus was razor sharp. I had no doubt about my identity as a wife and mother. Being a college student became a distant and faded desire that was so far in my rearview mirror that I didn't even think it was for me anymore. My priority was about building a stronger foundation for my kids than I had. I wanted to empower them so that they were not afraid to tackle hard things and even go to college someday if they wanted. Then, one day, early in 2010, everything changed as loss visited my doorstep like a malicious intruder. First, it was the unexpected death of my parents within 2 short years of each other. And in between that, our family uprooted and moved from halfway across the country from Boise to Illinois. Then, my first marriage completely unraveled. Truthfully, my white knuckle grip on that marriage had blinded me to the fact that my husband had exited many years prior. Our older two kids were quickly approaching adulthood, and the younger two kids were not far that behind. Because we had a house in Boise and the support of family, we decided that it was best for my younger two kids and I to move back home. The older two were well on their way to earning their college degrees, so they stayed in the Midwest. With our little family packed or split in two, and our lives packed into boxes in the back of a U-Haul, my two younger kids and I set out on a 24-hour road trip back to Boise. It was somewhere along that highway as endless cornfields flew by my window in a mind-numbing blur that I was hit with a moment of clarity. It was the game-changing kind. And I thought to myself, I am going to go to college. I wasn't sure when or how, but the dream of getting a degree had sparked and was ready to ignite into a flame when the time was right that day. For now, my focus was to rebuild. Much of our rebuilding season was a whirlwind, but it was during this time that God brought to me an unexpected gift, a second chance at love and marriage. Shortly after my second husband and I were married, and with his loving support, I found myself in the office of an advisor at the College of Western Idaho. Almost 3 decades after I promised my mom that I was going to go to college, it was finally going to happen. And in the winter of 2020, I earned my Associates of Applied Science degree in early childhood education. I thought that I would stop there, but after working a year in the field, I stepped right back in and transferred to Boise State. This time, my pause was only a year. Now I am ready to walk across the stage and receive my bachelor degree. Though I am unsure of what the next step will be, there are a few things that I know for certain. I know that my time in the academic world has empowered me and prepared me for whatever comes next. I have peace that I know how to face difficult things and reach my goals. I am confident that I will bring value to whatever job that I pursue next. And I know that I have the blessing of supportive family and friends. I don't really think that 18-year-old Diane would have planned the path that brought me here today. And she certainly didn't think that 1 year pause would turn into almost 3 decades. I can picture myself now, though, sitting with my mom once again. This time, I am 50. And instead of sadness and worry on her face, I see her smile beaming as she leans in and listens to me share my story. And her eyes are filled with love and understanding over every twist and turn and challenge and trial that I have overcome. Most of all, I can tell that my mom is proud and celebrating this major milestone right along with me.